Larry Ogunjobi, who is third on the Bengals in defensive pressures, defensive tackle, played the most snaps of any of their defensive linemen this year. Larry Ogunjobi sustained a foot injury against the Vegas Raiders. Again, the detriments of playing on Wild Card Weekend. He's straight up out. That's a big hole in the middle of their defense. And it comes at an advantageous time for Titans' offensive line that's getting time together, staying healthy. 2 games, small sample size, especially when you consider that it's in an 17-week regular season. To get the last 2, you're probably looking at that and throwing your hands up in the air and saying, oh, they could have won 15 games had the Titans' offensive line kept it together. It's not the case. This is the situation that you have. And by the way, it's beneficial because it's not just Larry Ogunjobi. Trey Hendrickson, who is a great player, signed in Cincinnati in free agency. I believe he came from the New Orleans Saints. Trey Hendrickson leads the team in defensive pressures. Trey Hendrickson was ruled out of that game on Saturday against the Raiders with a concussion. It is unclear what his status will be for Saturday. But I can assure you that playing on a shorter week, for lack of a better term, is not going to help him. And a situation where it's not like, all right, play through it. There are plenty of injuries where I think if, you were basically a coin flip away from making a decision to play, you'd say, all right, let's go. Concussion, not one of those things. That's going to be heavily scrutinized. It's going to be heavily monitored. It is a shame for the Cincinnati Bengals because that is a much improved defense because of the parts and pieces that they've added up front. In fact, I think the Titans would have done well had they pursued, Bud Dupree or Trey Hendrickson or any of these guys who were out there. Carl Lawson, another one who did have a decent season for the Jets despite how bad the Jets were earlier this year. Advantage, Titans offense in that regard. I think they'll be fine on offense. I don't know if they're going to be able to outright stop Cincinnati. Now, I'll tell you where they can stop outright Cincinnati based on what I saw from the Raiders on Saturday. Bengals were moving the ball pretty well. They had Larry Ogunjobi, by the way, forced or rather recovered a Derek Carr fumble to set up one of their field goals. Again, the final score was 26-19. They had 5 red zone trips. Cincinnati did. 5 red zone trips. Only 2 of those trips did they score touchdowns, 3 field goals as well. Now, field goals count. Mike McCarthy thinks they count more than what they're worth, I assume, given the way that he coached like a coward over the weekend, and we'll talk about that as well. But when the Bengals got into the red zone, for all of their explosive players and for as great as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon and all of these special athletes are, when there's lots of space, when you close things in on the 20, they kind of struggled. And it's not like the Raiders are any kind of a great red zone defense. They allowed their opponents to score a touchdown 81% of the time when they got inside the 20. So this is a situation that I think is going to be beneficial for Tennessee, especially if you have Derrick Henry. Because you talk about the places where they've suffered the most, right? I brought up their rushing efficiency earlier. It hadn't been great, even with Derrick. I think it would surprise a lot of people. Actually, let's play trivia, Lucas. What would you guess, out of 32 teams, where do the Titans rank in rushing play success rate on the season?
Top 10, I'm going to say 7.
7. You are incorrect. They are 24th.
Wow.
A lot of tackles for loss. A lot of tackles at the line. Derrick makes up for a lot of that when you're rattling off, 60-yard touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills. You've got game-breaking scores in Seattle. Derrick Henry makes up for a lot of that. And by the way, Deontay Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard have had some explosive runs as well. They're just a touch slower than Derrick, so the secondary players are able to catch up to them. Their average rushing play success rate this season, 37.8% of the time they had success on their rushing plays. It's not good. But consider that the offensive line has been largely bad all year long. Below average to at times bad. and how much that has improved, that has allowed them to average 4.29 yards per carry in the last 3 games, all 3 consecutive wins against a defense that will definitely not have Larry Ogunjobi, that is potentially without Trey Hendrickson. You're bringing Derrick Henry back against the perfect team to do so. There are no easy games in the NFL playoffs, and Cincinnati's offense will still push you. But every way that I look to break down this game, and we'll do it throughout the course of the week. Mina Kimes, who I'm watching on First Take today, she's going to be on the show on Thursday. We're going to have Coach Dave McGinnis. Will Compton is going to be here to break down the Titans defense as well. We're going to have a lot of X's and O's talk all week long. It's going to be great. But when I look at this, every time from my perspective, I don't know how the advantage every time isn't Titans unless they turn the ball over. Because that's the thing that cost them opportunities against the Cincinnati Bengals in Burrow's rookie year in Cincinnati. Those turnovers and the inability to get the Bengals offense off the field on third down. Life's different nowadays. 2020's third down defense is much different than 2021. 615-737-1045. You can jump in. Where do you think the Titans match up best with the Bengals? How do you feel about the matchup? Are you confident today? You should be. I'm curious because I've seen a lot of people who, are covering other teams or bigger markets throughout the course of the year, and then I see people come on social media yesterday and say literally nobody is talking about the Titans of all the postseason teams. And I can't dispute that right now, but it's interesting to me because I really do think that they are the biggest problem of any team on this side of the bracket. Kansas City looks like it might have something. Jerick McKinnon over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it worked like a dream against the Steelers. And we'll spend some more time on those wretched, super, quote-unquote, wild card weekend games later on in the show and with Mike Giardi of the NFL Network when he